The diplomatic vessel. Harmony's dawn descended through Earth's atmosphere with all the grace and ceremony befitting humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching the sprawling cities of North America grow larger beneath them. After 18 months of careful negotiations through long-range communications, the Zephyrian Collective had finally agreed to a face-to-face meeting. "Remember," Admiral Harrison's voice crackled through the comm system, "this is about building trust. Show them our best." Sarah nodded, adjusting her ceremonial uniform. The Zephyrians had been nothing but cordial in their transmissions. Curious about human culture, eager to share knowledge, proposing mutual benefits for both species. Their technology was clearly superior, their intentions seemingly peaceful. Everything suggested this would mark the beginning of a golden age for humanity. The landing proceeded flawlessly. A crowd of carefully selected representatives from various nations had gathered at the designated site in Colorado. Children from the local school had been invited to demonstrate humanity's commitment to the future, carrying flowers and artwork to present to their visitors. When the Zephyrian ship touched down, a collective gasp arose from the assembled crowd. The vessel was beautiful. Crystalline structures that seemed to bend light itself, creating rainbow patterns that danced across its surface. As the boarding ramp extended, 3 tall, elegant beings emerged. The Zephyrians stood nearly 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and faces that held an otherworldly beauty. Their skin shimmered with a pearl-like quality, and their large, multifaceted eyes reflected the afternoon sun like jewels. They moved with fluid grace, their flowing robes seeming to float around them. "Greetings, people of Earth," their leader spoke through a translation device, his voice carrying musical undertones. "I am High Coordinator Veltar. We come in peace and friendship." Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing with the magnitude of the moment. "Welcome to Earth. I am Ambassador Sarah Chen, representing the United Nations. We are honored by your presence." The ceremony proceeded according to plan. Gifts were exchanged, speeches were made, and photographs captured what everyone believed would be remembered as humanity's greatest day. The Zephyrians seemed genuinely fascinated by human culture, asking thoughtful questions about art, music, and social structures. Then came the moment when the local children were invited forward. 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez clutched her drawing tightly, a crayon picture of humans and aliens holding hands under a rainbow. Her teacher had told her she was helping make history, and she was both nervous and excited. As she approached the towering aliens, her small hand trembling slightly, High Coordinator Veltar bent down to her level. "What a beautiful creation, young one," he said, accepting the drawing with what appeared to be genuine appreciation. Emma beamed, her fear melting away. "I drew it for you. Do you have kids like me where you come from?" Veltar's expression shifted subtly, something Sarah would later realize was the first warning sign. "We do not reproduce as you do," he said, reaching out to touch Emma's face with one elongated finger. "But we find young minds fascinating." The moment his skin made contact with Emma's, everything changed. Emma's eyes rolled back, showing only whites. Her small body went rigid and she began to convulse. But it wasn't the convulsions that made Sarah's blood run cold. It was what happened next. Emma began to float, 6 inches off the ground, then a foot. The child rose into the air while her body shook with seizure-like movements. Energy crackled around her, and when she opened her eyes again, they glowed with an inner light that definitely wasn't human. "What have you done?" Sarah shouted, rushing forward. The other Zephyrians stepped back in apparent shock, their musical voices rising in what sounded like alarm. But Veltar's expression had changed entirely. The benevolent facade was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Interesting," he said, still touching Emma's face as she writhed in the air. "This species has latent capabilities we didn't detect in our scans. How useful." Sarah grabbed for Emma, but an invisible force threw her backward. Around the landing site, other children began screaming as they too started to float, their minds apparently linked to whatever was happening to Emma. "Release her!" Admiral Harrison's voice boomed across the field as security forces rushed forward. Veltar straightened to his full height, no longer bothering with diplomatic pretenses. "Your young ones will make excellent vessels for our consciousness. We had planned a slower integration, but this is far more efficient." What the Zephyrians hadn't counted on was humanity's most defining characteristic: the absolutely unhinged lengths they would go to protect their children. Dr. Marcus Webb, a quantum physicist who had been part of the scientific delegation, was the first to act. Without hesitation, he lunged forward and grabbed Emma's leg, allowing the alien energy to flow through him as well. The pain was excruciating, but it disrupted whatever process was occurring. "I've got her!" he screamed, even as his hair began to smoke. That was all the cue the humans needed. Security forces opened fire, not caring that these were supposedly peaceful aliens with superior technology. Admiral Harrison herself picked up a ceremonial rock from the display and hurled it directly at Veltar's head. Parents rushed forward, grabbing their floating children regardless of the energy that burned their hands. The Zephyrians' defensive systems activated, creating energy shields, but they hadn't anticipated the sheer ferocity of humans defending their young. Sarah Chen, trained diplomat though she was, found herself tackling one of the aliens to the ground, pummeling it with her fists, while screaming obscenities that would have made a sailor blush. "You want our children?" someone shouted. Sarah thought it might have been the school principal. "Come and take them!" The battle was brief but decisive. Not because humanity had superior weapons, but because the Zephyrians had made a critical error in judgment. They had expected a civilized response from a civilized species. Instead, they got exactly what evolution had designed humans to be when their offspring were threatened, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Within 10 minutes, 2 Zephyrians were dead, and Veltar was bleeding some sort of silver fluid, from wounds inflicted by everything from military weapons to a decorative trowel wielded by Emma's art teacher. "We miscalculated," Veltar gasped, as human soldiers zip-tied his hands behind his back. "Your species, our species," Admiral Harrison said, her dress uniform torn and her knuckles bloody, "doesn't negotiate when it comes to our kids. That's probably something you should have researched before planning your little harvesting expedition." Emma and, the other children were unconscious but breathing, the strange energy effects having dissipated the moment the aliens were subdued. As medical teams rushed to tend to them, Sarah stood over the captured Veltar, her diplomatic training warring, with a rage she'd never experienced before. "First contact was supposed to be peaceful," she said quietly. "But you touched the wrong child." Veltar looked up at her with his fractured, jewel-like eyes. "Your young ones, they carry such potential. We only sought to—" He never finished the sentence. Emma's father, a construction worker who had fought through 3 layers of security to reach his daughter, delivered a right hook that sent the alien's head snapping to the side. "Next time," he said, shaking his bruised knuckles, "maybe try asking first. As humanity began to reverse engineer Zephyrian technology from the wreckage of their ship, one thing became crystal clear to any other species monitoring the events. Earth's children were off limits, not because of humanity's military might or technological prowess, but because of something far more dangerous: their absolute, uncompromising willingness to tear the galaxy apart with their bare hands if necessary. The Zephyrians had come expecting to find a primitive species ready for exploitation. Instead, they discovered why humans had spent millennia fighting wars over the simple principle that some things are worth dying for, and sometimes worth killing for too.